Good day, podcast community. Pete Kane here, Podcast Pete and certified high performance coach. Man, we got a special guest for you. We had such a cool conversation before we came on. I know we're going to take the cool conversation into the podcast and you're going to get to know Grace. So, Grace, for our viewers that don't know you like I do, tell our viewers who you are, what you do, and who you serve. And then we'll get into our podcast.
Okay. Pete, thank you. Thank you for having me. So I am a registered interior designer, first and foremost. My company is called Grace and Design Services, and we've been in business for the last 17 years. I'm also a certified aging in place specialist. And
Mhm.
every time I say it, I have to slow it down because I know it's a mouthful. That means that I am certified to help people who want to stay in their homes um, figure out what they need to do for safety and accessibility. I'm also a WELL AP, which is a certification created by the International Well Building Institute that aims to create a framework that we can use to most corporate entities want to ensure that their employees are living in a healthy environment, but also they're creating spaces that encourage their healthy growth. And
Mhm.
so Well has created a framework with concepts for that.
Mhm. All right. I want to go back to uh, my mom lived to 95 because we created a better workplace for her as opposed to going to another place. So I
Mhm.
saw it firsthand. I mean, you know, you have to do what you do best. And what's so important about the space that we create for our seniors as they age in place? Give our viewers that didn't go through what I went through and
Mhm.
that you go through on a regular basis, kind of give our viewers an idea of from your eyes, the importance of that and what the benefits are.
Okay, so your mother lived to 95. For her to live that long, you had to create an environment that she would thrive in. So
Hmm.
first and foremost, we're looking at all the things that can be hazards. So we want to clear away all hazards. Then we want to create spaces that actually are safer and allow them to keep moving through those spaces. So that's where the accessibility comes in. Um, what we're really looking at is how do we make sure that as we age, we're able to navigate the spaces because we talk about our parents and our grandparents, but it's all of us. We're all aging. Our biggest challenge is our homes were built in a time, in a space where it was not built for us to age in them in the future. It was built for just that time. Um, my hope is that we'll start to build for the future because what we need is our homes aging with us and allowing us to thrive longer. So the most important things are um, making sure we have grab bars at
Hmm.
all of those most important places, bathrooms. Most hazards happen in bathroom slips and falls.
Hmm.
Um, if you're gonna do mats, make sure they're mats that aren't moving. Definitely lighting. I say all the time, lighting, 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 and lighting,
Hmm.
because it's so important that the lighting is bright enough for us to see the spaces we're passing through.
Hmm.
Um, Definitely creating spaces that are uncluttered. This is also a big thing. A lot of us are generally hoarders. We hold on to things. As my daddy says, this is our identity kit. So we
Hmm.
keep that. It's a reflection of who we are. But making sure that as we keep these things, they're filed away and they're not things that we can actually trip over and cause hazards themselves. And then just general safety. Everything from fire extinguishers to the fire blankets are really nice to have on hand if there's a quick fire to be able to put it out. changing the batteries in your fire extinguisher, in your smoke alarms, your carbon monoxide detectors, to just making sure that generally you're keeping your environment safe.
Mhm.
We say all the time that every client is a very individual situation because they're all dealing with very individual circumstances. So this is where how we deal with our spaces come in. Um, I've had conversations with people who find themselves in a situation where they can't navigate their stairs anymore.
Mhm.
And so they find themselves sleeping downstairs. But it's a makeshift situation where with just a few changes we could make it something that works better for them and is more permanent. Stairs are a very, very big challenge. And so we always talk about making sure there's enough lighting and railings on both sides of stairs as well. So
Mhm.
that if I'm slipping on the left or slipping on the right, there's something for me to hold on to.
Mhm.
And I'm not sure if that answered your question.
Yeah, we did. You know, we moved when my dad passed away. My mom, it was a two-story house,
Mhm.
and so where we all grew up, and when she went into a one-story bedroom on the first floor, grab
Mhm.
bars,
Yes.
less clutter, all the things you just spoke about. It was her, like, precious space. I mean,
Wow.
she was so happy in it because she was more functional with her aging, and so she was in this house, I wanna say, probably, I'm trying to date 10 years?
Wow.
When you think about 85 to 95,
Mhm.
do not have that environment. And you're exactly right. Less clutter,
Yep.
grab bars, all the things you said, because she did pass out
Mhm.
several times. Because as you get older, I think, as the doctor said, it was something with the gut that,
Mhm.
when it just eating the wrong things. And, one times it was at the grocery store and she was there with people. Then my
Yeah.
brother was there for the last year, so he really helped her because falling is a critical thing.
It really is.
So tell me, like, I've seen a couple scenarios where aging adults want to be near their grandkids, so they move into a independent facility, but they never want to move. They were there till 94, 95 when
Mhm.
they needed help. So do you see that where people, they don't like to move around, but they have to equip their space with all the things that you described? How do you
Yep.
communicate that to a person that's not aware of that space? Are you talking to the kids? Are you talking to both? How do you, like, share with them the importance of that environment and what they need to do to equip their living space with what you described to our viewers?
Pete, you're tapping into all of it. All of it. Let me back up and say the first thing that we're challenged with is the amount of space we have. So for your mother, she was in a two-story house, and you guys were smart enough to realize that she didn't need all that space.
Mhm,
And we don't even realize when having too much space is also a stress.
mhm,
Because for her, she's figuring out how to navigate all of this space, how to manage all of this space. And what you did is you gave her just the space she needed, and you
mm,
gave her all the safety and accessibility tips. So the challenge is always whether or not the person who is aging themselves realizes that it's time to downsize or reduce what they're managing, or if they'll listen to their kids. So it's one or the other. Are they going to listen to whoever is their designated caregiver? Are they going to themselves realize it? And all of us sometimes are in denial because we're independent. I feel independent. I don't need to change anything. is the general consensus. And sometimes the kids don't recognize it either because they're like, Mom's so independent. She's fine. She doesn't need to change anything. So there's this when do we realize that even if it's just small things, just to make sure they're safer, you know. So it's a constant conversation. And one of the things I've started to do, because I realize I don't get the chance to have more conversations with people. I'll meet them at the senior fair, like you saw me at ASCNN. But I don't get the call. They realize they need it, but they're so caught up in trying to deal with what the issue is that they think it is, or trying to get their parent to hear that they don't know how to take the next step. So what we've started to do is we give out a flyer. It has the 5 tips we just talked about. It says, generally what we're saying is try not to be stressed about it. Here are a few things you can do. And then there's a QR code that gives them just some ideas. Just the idea that I don't see them again, but they have a start. They have a start where they can then say, okay, let's look through what dad's dealing with. He says that he has it all under control, but how can we make things a little bit easier? How can we make it a little bit safer? How can we give him less house to deal with so that he doesn't feel like he needs to go out on the roof to fix something? Because this is a real challenge. This is a real challenge where parents are very independent, and our parents are coming from an era where they take care of themselves, they take care of us. They're so used to that. It's very hard to give up that independence. And or conversation needs to change from I'm going to take care of you to let me help you keep that independence, so you can continue to thrive.
Yeah, she was very joyous in her environment, and you could see it
Hmm.
because she, like you said, downsized to the space that was very comfortable for her.
Yep.
She didn't have to navigate difficult things. I was kind of surprised because I see a lot of the hoarding, in others. My mom didn't have that. She
Oh,
took
wow.
what she needed, and it
Hmm.
made for the space so beautiful that you had room to move around,
Good.
and it wasn't like we all tend to hold on to things. You said something before we came on the air. Share with our viewers, like, the what do you called it when we talked about hoarding and holding on to things, and just kind of explain the mental journey that we go on with stuff.
So, you can see my background behind me. I can't even deny it. I have too many things. My husband will tell you that too. um, we have emotional attachments to
Mhm.
our things. They remind us of a place, a time. They remind us of experiences and people. And so, in removing them from our space, we worry that we're removing those parts of our journey. So it is that important. Um, it also helps with memory, whether we realize it or not. We remember so much when we're able to look at these things. So I'm in no way devaluing the idea that um, it is important for us to hold on to those things. It's just if it can be organized in such a way that we have access and it's not a problematic to or traversing or spaces, and by
Mhm.
all means. Um, I realize sometimes we just need a little bit of help to get it organized too, because we have it, but it's so much that we can't even access it. We just
Mhm.
know it's there. And then the reverse happens where it becomes a brain drain because you're looking at it and you're like, here's this thing I need to organize, and I know I need to organize it, and I'll get to it, but now I feel bad that I'm not doing this thing I'm supposed to be doing, or this thing that I promised myself I'd do. So, we're trying to deal with our mental reaction to having and finding forgiveness because we have to forgive ourselves for it, finding
Mhm.
forgiveness.
What do I hired a person for, I don't know, probably 12, 16 hours to organize a smaller workspace, which was a one bedroom and just a little tiny space. And, being that organized
Mhm.
really gave me a lot of mental peace that, we don't realize sometimes it takes time to find things and we
Yep.
get frustrated with not being able to get to things in a reasonable amount of time. But
So
when
true.
we organize it to such a point where we're thinking of our mental energy, it's just freeing when you have that space and minimize. I'm kind of like, we definitely I've gone from had a lot of things to learning to live with less, and
Mhm.
less has given me more freedom mentally. So
Yes.
when you're working with people, who describe to our community, who's the ideal person you love working with? Like when you come home and you're talking to your husband, you're saying, "Man, I got a chance to work with this guy named Pete Kane, and he was taking my ideas, and we were like, what does that person look like?"
There's so many people who I'm able to work with in our industry, and it's like-minded people. It's people who see the need that we're trying to tap into, the the faces of all the people we're trying to help.
Mhm.
Because when we stop and we start to pinpoint. So yes, I love clients who say, Grace, come and meet with me, give me direction, and anything you want to do, we'll make it happen. Because I'm going to trust that you're going to guide me in the right direction. What I don't want is a client who says, Grace, do it. Okay? That's not me helping you. That's me doing me. And this spills over from the interior designer in me. Because if I show up and I do what I want to do, then I didn't do it for you. So
Hmm.
I must be a part of your process. I'm your guide on the journey. And when I'm done and I walk away, you say, wow, I function so well in this space. It does exactly what I needed. We're all cleared up. I'm organized. I have a client right now who we need to get together and organize her kitchen. And I'm so excited. I'm ready whenever she is because we're going to do all the pull out drawers that replace her having to get down on the ground to find something in the back or reaching too high. It's all too much. It's all too much. And as we get older, we'll all realize it's all too much. Um, I also realize that where, yes, I love a client who can show up and say, hey, Grace, this is what I want to do. And I want you to help me to the full extent of it. I want you to bring the subcontractors in and bring me the GC who can do the work. And then I want you to manage the process. That would be lovely. We realize that there are so many people out there who don't know how to start and don't have the resources to start. So there are those that we have to get to and help them because they don't have the hands to do it themselves and they don't have the resources.
Hmm.
So I'm for anybody out there who's trying to. And that, I guess, brings me to tap into Rebuilding Together Atlanta, my woman build group, Habitat for Humanity, because these organizations are already out there helping people to get to the next level, whether they're bound by resources or they live in a house that's falling apart around them. You know, they're able to give them an opportunity to stay where they are and to continue to thrive.
Oh, I love it. Now, I want you to go back to a younger Grace.
Hmm.
What in your growing up inspired you to go in the interior design route? And then when did you combine it with, which I think is the most coolest together, aging in place and interior design? So take us back to like the early part of Grace's journey. Like what came first, and what was in your growing up that spurred you to go in that direction?
So everything from wanting the dollhouse to going outside with little pieces of wood and nailing them together and building what I thought was my dream dollhouse, and then
Mhm.
being able to tear it apart and rebuild it. It's that early stage of having that control over what you're building.
Mhm.
I originally wanted to do architecture, but as I progressed through my education, interior design called me more. Um, so much of my career, I've been referred to as a space planner because it's all about the spaces. And
Mhm.
so I love the idea that our spaces meet our needs in different ways and understanding how we can just have just enough space. And the idea that if we understand that, then our space can be exactly what it needs to be for us. Um, I also grew up with my grandmothers. I had one grandmother who lived in the country and one who lived with me.
Mhm.
And I think I got to a point in interior design where I felt like I wanted to do more and be more. And I kept thinking about my grandmother navigating our house and things I didn't even understand at the time. As a teenager in high school, I didn't understand what she needed, what would have made life easier. I didn't understand. And so I kind of see my grandmother and everybody I see, if that makes sense. Both my grandmothers, actually, because my grandmother, who was in the country, found herself in a wheelchair because she had a stroke and lost the use of half of her body. And
Mhm.
so seeing my grandmothers dealing with their challenges of aging and realizing that my parents aren't getting any younger. And so I'm trying to stay ahead of them. I really am. And I'm trying to get them to I just told them the other day, and they didn't think it was funny, but I told them they're my worst clients. They're my worst clients
Yeah.
because there's so much I say that they're just catching up with me on and actually asking for it, which I'm excited about, which means that I'm finally getting there. But
Mhm.
I see my grandmothers in every client because
Mhm.
I'm like, what can we do to make it easier for them to
Yeah.
stay as independent as they want to be? They're all our grandparents, everybody.
Ooh, that's so good. What do you how do you handle, because we're not 25 anymore, so we're not growing up with the technology that the younger kids are growing up with.
Hmm.
Grace handle like AI and all this moving pretty fast with technology. How are you using technology to your advantage? And has it been difficult, that journey part of it?
It is. And as I mentioned before we started, my husband is dragging me, kicking and screaming the whole way. Pete. So he's been introducing me to things and hoping that I'll pick up on it quicker than I really do. But I'm coming along slowly. My kids, I have two kids.
Mhm.
They're teenagers, teenage boys, and if you know anything about teenage boys, I exist in the house to make sure they can eat. They're very busy and they're in their technology, but
Yeah.
I it's so funny. You see all these ads that say, I know you know Chat GPT, but there's a whole world out there. Pete, I know Chat GPT. I'm trying to get into the whole world, but I come from an era where we're climbing trees, and I feel like we've come so far already for me able to be able to handle using my cell phone. that I feel that that's an accomplishment, but I have so much further to go. When it comes to technology, this is also a challenge with our aging family members,
Mhm.
because where the technology can help them in so many ways to get them over the hump of learning how to use it is very important. Uh, I think we need to keep trying. I need to exposing them to something as simple as Alexa being able to turn on and off the lights
Mhm.
is so important. Alexa, call Grace. Alexa, call the police. It's that simple. That's how they know how safe they are. You
Mhm.
know, that's how they know that we're one call away.
Mhm.
Um, I have a friend who had a mishap years ago where she actually fell and she wasn't able to call anybody, and that would have been so important for her to have access to that.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
so yes, most definitely. And that's just the smallest part of the technology. The technology that we have for tracking how as aging people we traverse our space, how our patterns change or stay the same, so that changes in patterns can register changes in health, so that
Mhm.
the doctor can now understand that there's something they need to look at. It's so important for us to use all of the technology we have access to.
Mhm.
But just like me, that we need to take our time because they're not going to be able to navigate all of it very quickly. And as
Yeah.
much as we can, we need to make it easy and accessible. Easy
Yeah.
and accessible.
You mentioned you like building a dollhouse, and I balance. I see it that we are falling into a consumption mode. Like the average American watches 4 hours of TV and scrolls 2 hours of social.
Mhm.
So that's 6 hours of consumption a day.
Yep.
We're born to create.
Mhm.
We slowly fall into the consumption. How do you keep from falling into consumption and still make doll houses and still create? What have you done to kind of keep yourself on the creative side of the equation?
I wish I could tell you that I did. All the art pieces that I started that are sitting on the side over there,
Mhm.
or that I've actually started the pottery class that I want to before the end of the year, but I haven't. But what I find is when I get a project, um, it there's something about me interacting with a pen and a paper.
Hmm.
It's so for me, my creative is being able to create those spaces and see what I can, because it's I always say the biggest challenge is creating something on a piece of white paper, which is what I do every time I go to design something.
Hmm.
I have a project that's under construction now, and just being able to walk through and see everything that was drawn, realized it never gets old. It never gets old because it's not in my brain anymore.
Yeah.
So, and everybody else can see it, and everybody else can feel it and process how the spaces have been functional but pleasing, you know? So I guess I'm saying with every project I'm able to touch my creativity, even if it's not to the extent that I want. Um, I am also very, very interested in affordable housing,
Hmm.
affordable housing in any format. And so I'd love to pour more of my creativity into that, but I'm working on it.
Yeah. I just did a podcast. I spoke about it earlier, the
Hmm.
power of the pen and paper.
Yep.
And before I had my stroke, I grew up dyslexic, so writing and that part of me was never, like, exercised. But when I had 49 days to think, and I
Hmm.
started journaling. I have now well over 16 full journals. I journal every single day. I don't do TV, I don't do social, but it's given me the creative way of getting what's in here out. And I'll talk to people about journaling. We actually give journals at a when we do a talk because I think it's the best way to create yourself is writing and just not I have a buddy that he spent a lot of time in Argentina and they didn't have he used his phone to do notes and stuff.
Oh
And I
wow.
was just sharing, like, to write, there's something magical, like, some of the kids will type in their notes because they can type faster, but the brain creates neural paths when they write. And
Yep.
I just every time not doing something, I go out, I'm on the porch and I just write, like, ideas, you'll tell me something and I'll just write about it. And it's amazing what keeps coming because we have between 12 and 60,000 thoughts that go through our head. If we can't
Wow.
create, through the pen and the paper, we can't get them out of our head to really express what we're thinking about and seeing them written. Do you have anything like I know I'll just my viewers don't know this, but when I saw you at the Church of the Apostles, it's like you light up. It's like I always tell people, like, bring the joy. There's people that bring joy that light up a room, and then there's others that dim the light. So, what is it because you're in the creative space, or what makes you shine in a room?
You know what? It's that opportunity to show up as a positive force. It really is. Right after I did that senior fair, I was able to do a senior fair in Jamaica, and it was the second year I was doing it. And just being able to show up. People are so appreciative when you give them something that's a piece of information that they didn't have before. And
Mm,
just that idea of imparting a little bit of knowledge that can go so far is very exciting for me. I also get excited with the creative process, but it's a different kind of exciting.
mhm,
Um, when when I'm able to go, last week I was able to take my boys on a Rebuilding Together Atlanta build with me,
mhm.
and I've been trying to do that for so long. The stars aligned. There was a build. They were on fall break. They had no excuse. Signed them up, threw them in the car, took them with me. And you know what? They didn't have a bad time.
Yeah.
And I say it that way to be the reverse of what they have in their minds that I'm trapped them in the car to go with me. But to realize that what they showed up for, it's not a thing, it's a person.
Yeah.
To see the person we showed up for, to see the work that they were able to be a part of, and to see that impact is priceless, is priceless.
Mhm.
And so many times I'm able to show up and it has nothing to do with work. It's just you're able to make a difference for somebody. And I think that is priceless. And that does light me up. It does light me up. But I have to go back and say, Pete, you just told me to go back to journaling. I heard you talking about it and you got me all excited. I need to pick up my pen and start writing again.
All right. Now you mentioned that. If I can do this, I'm not a good multitasker,
Tell
but
me.
I am gonna bring up something here before hopefully I can find it. And I want to give our viewers a gift because if we mention that journaling and you
Hmm.
said you're going to start, we want to give our, hold on here. I think I can find it. Oh, yes, I can. Okay, here it is. Okay. All right. All right. So journaling set me free. Okay. Now, what we want to give our guests is hold on here. I'm going to go to one thing. Okay, here we go. I want to give them a free course.
Oh
All
wow.
you have to do is get a pen and anything. It doesn't have to be, it could be a dollar pad. You can get journals from Amazon for $5.
Mhm.
But this has been I love this course because it set me free from never writing my whole life to now.
Mhm.
It's just everything. I've written books, I've written everything I do is writing. And so if they go to petekane.me/journaling and they use the word, oh, I think it's podcast, it'll waive it'll be a gift. It'll waive the $97. You'll get it for free. We might even put Grace's name in there. So when Grace starts journaling and she gives this away to her friends because it's the best way to create and the best way that you can continue the journey of creating, because there's something magical, and you said it earlier, pen and paper. Just pen and paper, something magic. Oops, I lost her. Hold on here. I'll get her back.
No, you're fine. I'm here. I'm not good
Yeah, I
anymore.
sometimes try to reduce it, but yeah, just go and enjoy it. Start writing, start creating. We have so much information coming into our brain. If we don't have a way to release it, it gets cluttered. Just like we talked about, clutter.
I was just thinking it's the decluttering. Yep,
Yeah,
it's the decluttering.
decluttering is so important. So thank you for mentioning that, Grace. I want to be respectful of your time. I told you 30 minutes and we're going way over. So I want tell our viewers, how can they get a hold of Grace?
So our website is graceindesign.net. That's the easiest way. We can do a 15-minute consult for anybody who just wants a little bit more information, wants to understand where they are and what they can do next.
Hmm.
Our website also has a blog with articles, um, lots of information. There is also the product list. So there's an aging in place product list. So just going through that list gives some idea of things that we may need that we don't even know we need. And a lot of the things I spoke about as well.
I
But
love
Pete, you mentioned something. You mentioned having a stroke.
it. Hmm. Yes. I mean,
When did
it'll be 4 years this February. So I'm in a
wow.
wheelchair right now. Not that I use it every day, but it's
Mhm.
a reminder of where I was. And hold on here. You got to crack a joke. Where I was and how far I've come, because I lost my entire left side. Had to learn
Wow.
to learn to move, had to learn to go to the bathroom, take a shower, all the basic stuff. I'm
You
still
are
doing
a rock
it
star.
every week. And I go to the gym. So it's a journey back. Like you said, your grandmother, when
She,
you lose your left side, you really lose both parts of
mhm.
both, because your body needs the whole to
Yep,
operate. And so people don't know it, but you have to, it's a slow process back. I mean, there's no easy path, but
you're
it's
a
a
rock.
beautiful one when you start using things you don't use. Because I used to run, I can't even hardly walk around the block without being worn out, because I have to think about every step you take. And
Mhm.
so there's a journey in anything, and there's so much growth in our tragedy or our trauma that we have. But I would like you to come back if you want,
I'd love to.
interview me. You
I'd love
you ask me anything you want,
I'd
because
love
I think you have such a curiosity too, in
I
that creative. I love when people, are in that creative space, because I think if we learn to keep creating,
yep,
man, life's beautiful.
it
And
is.
too many of us slide into consumption, and we
Mhm.
don't even realize we're doing it. But everybody's trying to pull you into their social media, their
Yes,
TV, their Netflix, and you're just almost like fighting against it, and they're just subtly pulling you, and we got to pull back
yep.
into staying in that creative space. So As we wind down, what would be the one thing, Grace, you would want our viewers to take home from our podcast today?
It's a lot simpler than we think to do something to stay safer in our homes. It
Mm,
really is. It's small changes. For some of us, it's going to be larger changes. For some people, as much as it's difficult to understand, it might be reducing their space or moving to a smaller space. But sometimes small changes can take us so far. And what we want more than everything else is just safety, 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 safety.
mm,
For us to be safer in our homes. And that's not just for somebody who's aging, that's not just for somebody with a disability. It's all of us. Just be
mm.
safer at homes.
Well, Grace, thank you so much for spending time with our community. It was a real pleasure to have you on the show and share your insights and your ideas and your journey on our podcast. So thank you so much for that.
Pete, thank you for having me. It was my
You,
pleasure.
my pleasure too.